Welcome to the third episode in a Legendarium series about King Henry V of England. In this installment, Crossing the Channel, we will talk about the historical inspiration for one of Shakespeare's most iconic characters, Sir John Falstaff. However, the real-life tragedy of Sir John Oldcastle would prove to be a very small part of the wider war that King Henry had planned. One of the most famous characters from Shakespeare's plays about the Lancaster dynasty is Sir John Falstaff, a drunken scoundrel who befriends Prince Henry during his wayward youth. Upon his drinking partner's coronation as King of England, Falstaff is removed from the royal presence in a symbolic act of King Henry putting aside childish things. Of course, the historical reality was very different. Falstaff was based on Sir John Oldcastle, an English soldier who fought alongside Prince Henry during the wars in Scotland and Wales. In gratitude, King Henry V saw his old friend married into a noble family and eventually entered into the House of Lords. However, after he became king, Henry V found his friendship with Oldcastle ruptured. Not because, as in Shakespeare's play, he needed to grow up, but due to religious differences. Oldcastle belonged to a dissident sect called the Lollards, which was targeted by Thomas Arundel, the Archbishop of Canterbury, as heretics. One of Arundel's reasons for going after the Lollards was likely their protests against corruption within the Catholic Church. Oldcastle himself was indicted by a church court for heresy, but Oldcastle's friendship with King Henry got him off easy. Upon being freed, Oldcastle rejoined other Lollards, and together they plotted to kidnap King Henry V. Royal agents infiltrated the conspiracy, the ringleaders, including Oldcastle, were arrested, and with a heavy heart, King Henry was forced to put his old friend to death. Yet the Lollard plot was a minor matter to Henry. He was really interested in France. His Angevin forebears ruled much of northern France, and he used that as a pretext to lay claim to Aquitaine, Normandy, and other great duchies within France, which at the time was divided in a civil war between Duke Jean the Fearless of Burgundy and Charles of Orleans. After making a loose alliance with Duke Jean, King Henry began whipping up enthusiasm for the French campaign among the landed magnates who ruled England. Of course, enthusiasm doesn't mean much without money, so King Henry sent out letters of appeal to individuals and towns requesting money, though when coming from the king, it probably isn't a request. After a town agreed upon a payment, everybody within the walls would contribute, with even the poor giving over a few pennies to invest in the king's French campaign. Henry, in turn, gave the towns collateral. He turned over royal regalia, the crown jewels, and even prized plate from his castles to the town, just in case he wasn't able to repay his wartime debts. And of course, to repay those debts, he needed to conquer at least part of France. All that money bought King Henry V an army of 11,000 men, which he ferried across the Channel in August 1415. Upon landing on the Channel coast, he laid siege to the French fortress city of Harfleur. It had a circuit of walls, 24 towers, a water supply within the city, and even port defenses. Henry issued a warning to the townspeople, citing a law in Deuteronomy which he believed gave him justification for executing those who resisted their lawful king, which was convenient for King Henry as he considered himself the lawful king of France. And when the people of Harfleur refused, King Henry dug trenches around the city, placed his cannons inside them, and protected the big guns with wooden screens. The English fusillade did much damage to the walls and towers around Harfleur. The French countered by repairing the walls with timber screens under cover of darkness and launching stones at the English from catapults within the city. However, filthy conditions within the English trenches, which filled with human and animal waste, did far more damage to King Henry's army by causing an outbreak of dysentery, an illness that caused violent spasms of diarrhea. Despite being extremely sick, the English still managed to seize the Barbican, a critical part of the Harfleur fortifications. This threatened the French with being taken, and since they had resisted King Henry, they faced the prospect of their city being ransacked and many citizens being put to the sword. So the French chose to surrender to King Henry on September 22nd, 1415. On September 23rd, the next day, King Henry walked barefoot to the church of St. Martin and gave thanks to God for his victory. He then arranged for the sick and poor within Harfleur to be ferried to Rouen, where they could find refuge. However, King Henry had only taken a city. An entire kingdom waited to be conquered. This wraps things up for this installment of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.